So this video is going to explain how to manage images in WordPress. So whether I'm in a new post or a new page or any of the other things that this particular system has portfolios, if I make a new post, for instance, I'll be able to add an image. Now, whether I'm adding it, like I said, in a new post or a new page, or even you know, there's various other ways you can add images or places you can add images to in WordPress. For instance, there's a featured image. It's roughly the same general way it works in most cases. So I'm going to run through that. So I'm just going to use the add new post. So I've clicked up here and I'm going to press insert the insert media button up here, add media button. And it brings me to the media library. Now, these are all the images that I've got in the media library. The media library, you can go directly into it up here, and you can add an image in directly into the library up there, or it's the same thing basically to add it in here. Well, that's what I was going to say, is that if the image you want is not in the media library, you will go to upload files and literally just drag the file in here, or select files and find it on your drive. So you've also got this insert from URL thing, but that doesn't put it into the library. It's a way of using the media from somewhere else. Okay, so assuming if we put the if I dragged an image in here, it would upload and it would end up in the library, and then I'd be able to use it. So I'm just going to start from that point, even though some of the during the upload process you get some options slightly differently, but different options to these, but they're more or less the same thing. Now, one thing to note is that when you upload a file into the media library, it's going to make various versions of that file, and you can see those versions down here in this size thing here. So I can't tell for certain, but I think, well, I'll have a look. I think this is a very large image. So this is the original size of this image, 4,600 pixels wide and 3,456 high. It's a pretty big image. It's way too big for most websites. Most biggish websites are maybe 1,200 pixels wide. You'll use 1900 wide images for sliders, and it varies, but anyway, 4,600 is really big. So when I import that in through that kind of an image, it would have left the original, which is this, and then it also made all these copies. So you've got the original, and it's made a large one which is reduced down to 870 wide, a medium, and it's also done a cropped, it's cropped because it's square, thumbnail. So we've now got 5 copies of this file. Now, because this one is so big, you're never going to use that, or you shouldn't ever use that. You know, you just have to generally get used to the widths of what width pixels are, but as a rough guide, anything bigger than about 1,000 or 1,500 pixels is really big. Your average size image for the web is going to be maybe a couple of hundred pixels up to maybe 1,000 for a wideish one. So why that's important is because 4,000 is quite big, but if you had some cameras could be 12,000, and if you uploaded a lot of files that size, where while it's fine to say, well, WordPress is making smaller versions of them for me to use, you're actually using a lot of disk space, and over time, if you have a lot of photos on your blog, it could be something to consider. And in that case, you'd be looking at getting Photoshop to make them smaller for you. And that's what I should have done here. This is a bit big for me, but it depends upon how much you don't mind paying for hosting and various things like that. So anyway, that's the physical size of the image and the original size of the image. But WordPress, like I said, is very good at working out these things. So what you generally do is you're going to pick the image, the file version, this is the file version. It's not really the size, even though that's what it says. It's gonna I want to pick the file that's maybe one notch higher than what I want. Sometimes you're going to get maybe a list of 6 or 8 of these here, not just 4. So suppose I want to do an image that's roughly 200 pixels wide, I'd be picking that one. If I wanted to do an image that was maybe 500 pixels wide, I would pick this one. If you were going to do an image that was 400 pixels wide, you might be tempted to pick this one and scale it up, but it'll actually just pretty reduced quality, so it's not a good idea. And likewise, if you're going to do like a 200 pixel wide one, you pick this one, or worse still, this one. You're really just putting a lot of weight onto the page. You don't want to do that. So I'm going to skip everything else on this except for this, the alt text. If you don't know about alt text, you basically need to put in, like, strictly speaking, alt text it's alternative text. It's optional, but really you should always use it. It's the text that appears if the image doesn't appear. And so it's used by screen readers, and it's used in numerous other scenarios, and it's also used by Google for your SEO, so it's worth putting in something into this. So I could type in bicycle sculpture, for instance, if I want to. So I'm just going to pick this size, and I'm going to leave everything else as it is. I'm going to go into these two on the next page, because we can get back into this edit scenario here, or the meta editing, from the next page, right? So we're going to insert it, and the image has gone in, and you might notice it was aligned right, so that's why it's over on the right hand side. Now if I click on it, I've got these, so I could change that alignment, for instance, and I could remove the image. Or if I click this edit, it brings me back into, it looks different, but it's actually kind of more or less the same as the one that we were on a minute ago, in that we've got the alignment, we've got these, again we can pick these various files, and we've got the attachment page, and we've got the alternative text. You can also add a caption here. It's, you might get various mileage depending on your theme, and that's that. Also, when you're in here, there's the edit original. So I can go into the edit original, and I'm not really going to get into this much, but you can flip the image, rotate it through 90 degrees, and you can also crop it. It's a little bit, it's not Photoshop, so you'll have to play around with that to get the crops to work. Some help there, but it does actually work if you want to. If I wanted to use, for instance, if this came in at 4600 and my large full size was like 800, but if I wanted a 1200 image, I could just scale it here, and I think it would create a new file for that. Pretty sure it would, which would be good. Let's see, what do I want to do next? So if I click on the image, I've got these handles so I can resize the image. So earlier I was talking about picking the right size file, so that your actual image size will be right. So I could demonstrate that. For instance, if I click the image, go back into edit it, and I set a medium, and so I've got the medium file, even though it says size. And now if I decide I'm going to make that bigger, lots bigger, you can see the quality is pretty bad. I don't know whether you can see it in the video, but the quality there is pretty bad. Likewise, if I'll just go in here and I'll pick the large one, and update that, and the quality is much better. But conversely, if I wanted to make a really small image, I've cut the large file now. I can make that a lot smaller, but that's a waste because I'm using a much bigger file and shrinking it down. That's that. But in any case, whichever file I pick, I will just sized it the right size, and you can see the pixels there on the right hand side of the cursor. So then we want to do alignment. So I can do my alignment here, or I can do it by going into the edit. Now I'm just going to make it a bit smaller, and if I'm just going to go in here and make some text, and I'm just going to make a fake paragraph here, and even 2. So first of all, if I try and drag that image, that'll drag around for me nicely, and I can put it anywhere I want as long as it's on the left. But if I try to drag it over here, it will not go over there, no matter what I do. So what I'm going to do is I'll just delete all this and start again to show how to do this. So I'll just copy my paragraphs in there again, and okay, so to put an image over here, I would click here, add the media, and I can do it here, or I can do it where I was doing it, set align right. So I've put the image, I put the cursor on the top left hand corner, and I picked align right, and the image goes all the way over there, and the text wraps around to the right. Now why wouldn't I put the, if I don't put the if I was to put the cursor, you put the cursor where you want the image to appear. Actually, in the vertical sense, you put the cursor where you want the image to appear. But if I wanted to put the image over on the right, and I clicked, as you might expect, over here on the right, what I'm actually doing is putting the cursor somewhere in the middle of a line of text like that, because this text flows, and so your image will end up being one line down. It will look something like that, and you won't be able to get away from that. So to get it right, you need it to be in the top right hand corner, top left hand corner. So you always pick the row with the cursor, and then you pick the alignment left or right with these buttons, or where I said it a minute ago, or you can click here as well. So left and right, you've got 4 options. Left and right are fairly obvious. Obviously left is this. Center means nothing on the left, nothing on the right. So if I drag it down to the middle, that's what it does. And none is the other one. You're rarely going to use that. It's right in the middle of the text. It's really only useful for like icons or something like that, where it's literally like a letter in the text. So that's the alignment. And to do the last thing to do is the actual link. So if I click on edit to get back in here, we've got this link to. Now, first of all, none is fairly obvious. It's just going to be an image, and if I click on it, nothing happens. So that's one option. Custom URL is fairly straightforward too. If I click custom URL, I can, this is where it's going to go to now, but I could just type in a URL to some other website. So this could be a link to Google for the sake of argument, or another page within your website. You just type the URL in there. Then media file is, well, attachment page is, I'll show you what an attachment page is. If I publish this, and we look at the image, or the page, if I click on that image, it'll go to the attachment page, which is this, which is, sometimes it may be useful, but usually it's not going to be very useful, at least not in my experience. So that's the attachment page. It's just a special kind of a presentation page for the image. Might be useful for maybe a photography website, I suppose, where you'd have metadata around the image or something like that. And the last is the media file. This is what you're normally going to want to use, I think, this or none. So what this does is dependent on your theme. So if I go back and refresh this, if I click on the image now, it's going to open up in a lightbox. That's because I have this is a lightbox. Often it's more dark in the background. It blacks out the background. It's a nice way of looking at images. That's because this is installed on my website it's not always installed. If it's not installed, it's going to give you this. So it depends on what you want.